John had been a rancher for over 2 decades, his rugged hands and sun-weathered face a testament to the hard work and dedication that had gone into building his empire. But despite his success, a void had been growing inside him since the passing of his wife, Sarah. They had met in school, and John had been immediately drawn to her kind heart and beautiful smile. After a whirlwind romance, they had gotten married and spent the next 20 years building a life together. Sarah had been more than just a wife. She was John's partner, his best friend, and the love of his life. As the years went by, John had tried to fill the void left by Sarah's passing with work and socializing, but nothing seemed to be able to fully replace her. He felt lost and alone, like a part of him was missing. His friends and family tried to be supportive, but they just didn't understand what he was going. They would tell him to move on, to find someone new, but John knew that was easier said than done. He had loved Sarah with every fiber of his being, and he couldn't imagine loving anyone else the way he had loved her. One day, while out running some errands in town, John stumbled upon an auction being held at the local saloon. He had never been much of an auction enthusiast, but something about the commotion and energy of the crowd drew him in. As he made his way through the crowd, he noticed a young woman standing at the front of the room, her eyes cast down at the ground. She was being sold as Barren, a term that sent a shiver down John's spine. He had heard of women being sold as such before, often as a way to shame and ostracize them from society. But something about this woman's demeanor struck a chord within him. As the auctioneer began to speak, John's attention was drawn to the woman's face. Her eyes were a deep, piercing brown, and her features were delicate yet strong. She looked like she had been through a lot, and John couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for her. The auctioneer continued to speak, saying that the woman was being sold as Barren, and that she was a liability to any potential buyer. But John couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her story than what was being presented. Despite the doubts of his friends and family, John decided to take a chance on the woman. He bid on her, and to his surprise, he was the only one who bid. The auctioneer declared him the winner, and John walked over to the woman with a sense of trepidation. As he approached her, she looked up at him with a mixture of fear and resignation in her eyes. "Hello," John said softly, trying to put her at ease. "My name is John. I'm the one who bought you." The woman looked at him warily, but she didn't say anything. John could tell that she was scared, but he also sensed a deep sadness within her. He reached out a hand and gently took hers, trying to reassure her that everything was going to be okay. As they walked out of the saloon together, John couldn't help but wonder what had brought this woman to this place. What had happened to her to make her feel so broken and defeated? And what lay ahead for them now that he had bought her? As they stepped out into the bright sunlight, John felt a sense of hope that he hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe, just maybe, this woman would be the key to healing the void left by Sarah's passing. Maybe she would be the one to help him find love again, to help him move on from the pain of his past. But for now, all John knew was that he had bought a woman who had been sold as Barren, and that he was determined to help her find a new beginning. As they walked towards the ranch, John noticed that the woman was looking around, taking in the sights and sounds of the countryside. She seemed to be drinking in the beauty of the world around her, and for a moment, John saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Maybe, just maybe, this woman wasn't as broken as he had thought. The sun was beginning to set as they approached the ranch, casting a golden glow over the landscape. John felt a sense of peace wash over him, a sense of belonging to this land and to this woman. He knew that he still had a lot to learn about her, but for now, he was just grateful to have her by his side. As they stepped into the ranch house, John felt a sense of unease. What lay ahead for them? Would this woman be able to find a new beginning on the ranch, or would the memories of her past continue to haunt her? And what about John's own feelings, his own heart? Would he be able to open himself up to love again, or would he remain forever closed off? As the darkness gathered outside, John turned to the woman and smiled. "Welcome to the ranch," he said softly. "I'm glad you're here." The woman looked at him warily, but John could see a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something beautiful. As the night drew in, John felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but he was ready to face it head on. He was ready to help this woman find a new beginning, to help her heal from the wounds of her past. And as he looked at her, he knew that he was ready to move on from the pain of his own past, to open himself up to love again. But little did John know, the night was just beginning, and with it, a journey that would change his life forever. How could a man who had been through so much heartache possibly be the one to bring hope and healing to a woman who had been sold as barren? And what about the woman herself? What secrets lay hidden behind her broken eyes? As the darkness gathered outside, John and the woman stood together in the silence of the ranch house, their hearts beating as one. And in that moment, something shifted, something that would change the course of their lives forever. The next morning, John woke up to the sound of his own heartbeat, and as he sat up in bed, he felt a sudden jolt of excitement. He looked over at the woman, who was still asleep beside him, and his heart swelled with love and gratitude. He gently reached out and stroked her hair, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. And then, as he looked down at her, he saw it, two tiny hands clutching a small, wrapped bundle. John's heart skipped a beat as he gently unwrapped the bundle, revealing two tiny, perfect babies wrapped in a soft blanket. John's eyes widened in shock and wonder as he looked at the woman, who was now smiling at him, her eyes shining with joy and love. "Twins," she whispered, her voice barely audible. John felt his heart overflow with emotion as he looked at the two tiny babies, his mind reeling with the implications of what he had just seen. How is this possible? The woman had been sold as barren, and yet here were two tiny babies, proof that she was fertile, that she was a woman with a deep and abiding love for life. As John looked at the woman, he saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes, a sense of redemption and forgiveness that he had never seen before. And in that moment, he knew that he had made the right decision in buying her, that he had given her a chance at a new beginning, a chance to heal and find love again. But as John looked at the two tiny babies, he also knew that their journey had just begun, a journey that would be marked by laughter and tears, by joy and heartache. And as he looked at the woman, he saw a deep and abiding love in her eyes, a love that would carry them through the trials and tribulations that lay ahead. And as the sun rose over the ranch, casting a warm glow over the landscape, John knew that he had found what he had been searching for all along, a new beginning, a new lease on life, and a deep and abiding love that would carry them through the challenges of the days to come. A life of shame deep within the rugged terrain of Texas, there lived a woman named Emma, whose existence was a perpetual reminder of the brutal hand life had dealt her. The unforgiving sun beat down upon her weathered skin, a constant reminder of the hardships she'd endured. Her eyes, once bright with hope, now dimly reflected the pain and suffering that had shaped her. As a young girl, Emma had been sold to a ruthless man by her desperate parents. He had promised her a life of comfort and security, but what he delivered was nothing short of hell. The man's fists had pounded her into submission, his words dripped with venom, and his absence left her feeling abandoned and forlorn. Years went by, and the physical and emotional scars he left on her body only grew more pronounced. On Emma's skin, a permanent reminder of the abuse she suffered at the hands of her former owner, was a rope burn. The thick, twisted rope had been wrapped around her chest, constricting her breathing and searing her flesh. The wound had long since healed, but the emotional pain lingered, a constant ache that echoed through her very being. As she grew older, Emma found herself struggling to escape the shackles of her past. She longed to break free from the chains of shame and guilt that bound her, to find a sense of purpose and belonging in a world that seemed determined to crush her. But every step she took felt like a betrayal, every decision a compromise, every move a reminder of the fragile thread that held her together. In the small town where she lived, Emma was a pariah, a woman shunned and ostracized by the very people she had once called friends. They whispered behind her back, their words dripping with malice and contempt. They saw her as a broken thing, a woman irreparably damaged by the cruel hand of fate. And in their eyes, Emma saw a reflection of her own self-loathing, a mirror that reflected the shame and guilt she felt. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Emma's resolve grew stronger. She began to see the world in a different light, to realize that the shame and guilt she felt were not hers to bear. She started to understand that the rope burn on her skin was not a symbol of her worthlessness, but a testament to her strength and resilience. And with each passing day, Emma's heart grew lighter, her spirit more buoyant, her desire to escape the shackles of her past more urgent. The town's harsh judgments and Emma's desire to escape created a sense of tension, a feeling that the very fabric of her existence was about to be torn apart. And in the midst of this turmoil, a figure emerged, a cowboy with a rugged face and a heart of gold. He would change Emma's life forever, but for now, she was lost in the wilderness of her own making, searching for a way out of the darkness that had consumed her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the landscape in a warm, golden light, Emma's thoughts turned to the future. She knew that she couldn't stay in this place, surrounded by people who saw her as less than human. She had to escape, to find a new home, a new sense of purpose, and a new chance at life. And with that thought, Emma's heart swelled with determination. Her spirit lifted with hope, and her eyes shone with a newfound sense of purpose. The sound of crickets filled the air as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky. The world seemed to be holding its breath, waiting to see what Emma would do next. And as she stood there, her feet rooted to the earth, her heart pounding in her chest, Emma knew that she had a choice to make. She could stay in this place, surrounded by people who saw her as less than human, or she could take a chance to escape the shackles of her past and forge a new path, one that would lead her to a brighter, more hopeful future. The decision was hers to make, and as the silence hung in the air, Emma's heart seemed to whisper a single, quiet word: freedom. As the blistering Texas sun beat down on the dusty town, Emma stood tall, her weathered skin a testament to the hardships she'd endured. The unforgiving winds howled through the streets, carrying the whispers of the townspeople, their voices a constant reminder of the shame that had been heaped upon her. Deep within the rugged terrain of Texas, Emma's existence was a perpetual reminder of the brutal hand life had dealt her. The cruel fate that had been bestowed upon her had left her with a life of shame, one that seemed destined to be forever etched upon her face. But today, something inside her sparked. A flame of defiance, long dormant, began to flicker to life. Emma's eyes, once sunken and defeated, now shone with a newfound determination. She stood before the town's council, her voice shaking but resolute, as she addressed the men who had wronged her. "I will not be ashamed," she said, her words echoing through the silence. "I will not be silenced." The council members, hardened by years of cruel treatment, snickered at her bravery. But Emma's words struck a chord within the crowd, a small but significant crack of defiance that began to spread like wildfire. A young girl, her face streaked with tears, stepped forward, her voice rising above the din. "She's right," the girl said, her eyes flashing with determination. "She doesn't deserve to be treated like this." The crowd, once a sea of faces indifferent to Emma's plight, began to stir. A murmur of agreement rippled through the air, as if a dam had burst, releasing a torrent of emotions long suppressed. The council members, taken aback by the sudden outpouring of support, faltered in their resolve. John, the rugged rancher who had watched Emma's struggles from afar, stepped forward, his eyes burning with a fire of his own. "We've been blind to her pain," he said, his voice a gentle balm to the wounded hearts of the crowd. "We've been deaf to her cries for help." He turned to Emma, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. "I am sorry, Emma. I'm sorry for what we've done to you." The crowd, sensing the weight of John's words, began to weep. The shame that had been heaped upon Emma began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of compassion and understanding. The physical symbol of shame, a cruel brand etched into her skin, began to fade, replaced by a new symbol of hope. As the crowd dispersed, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. The crack of defiance that had begun to spread had become a tidal wave, one that would forever change the course of her life. She looked at John, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for seeing me." The camera pans out, capturing the dusty town, its inhabitants now a sea of faces filled with compassion and understanding. The sun beats down upon them, its rays a reminder of the struggles they've faced, but also a symbol of the hope that has been kindled within their hearts. The voiceover continues, a soft, echoing moral that lingers long after the credits roll. Shame is a heavy burden, one that can crush the spirit. But it's also a reminder of the power of redemption, of the possibility of forgiveness and healing. Emma's story is one of defiance, of a woman who refused to be silenced, who refused to be ashamed. And it's a reminder that we all have the power to choose our own path, to choose our own destiny. As the sun rose over the vast expanse of the Texas ranch, a new era dawned for Emma and John. They stood side by side, hands clasped, gazing out at the endless horizon. The air was crisp, filled with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers, and the sound of birdsong echoed through the valleys. It was a morning like any other, yet it marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. John, the rugged rancher, had taken a chance on Emma, a woman wrongly condemned by the townspeople. He saw beyond the whispers and the shame, and instead, he saw a kindred spirit, a partner who would stand by his side through thick and thin. As they walked towards the farmhouse, the warm sunlight danced across their faces, illuminating the genuine smile that had long since faded from Emma's eyes. Their days were filled with the simple pleasures of building a life together. They worked side by side, their hands moving in tandem as they tilled the land, planted seeds, and harvested the crops. The land responded to their labor, yielding a bounty of corn, wheat, and cotton, which they sold at the local market. With each passing day, their bond grew stronger, forged in the fires of hard work and mutual respect. Mealtimes became a highlight of their day, a chance to share stories, laughter, and tears. Emma's eyes sparkled as she listened to John's tales of adventure on the range, and he, in turn, was captivated by her stories of the old world, of the life she left behind. Their conversations flowed like a gentle stream, meandering through topics, yet always returning to the present moment. They found solace in each other's company, a comfort that soothed their souls. As the weeks turned into months, the community began to take notice of the changes in Emma. She was no longer the shadow of a woman, shunned by the townspeople. Instead, she was a capable and loving partner, working alongside John to build a thriving ranch. Neighbors who had once whispered behind her back now smiled and waved as she passed by. The children of the town would gather round, listening with wide eyes as Emma told stories of her past, of the life she'd lived before the shame and the condemnation. One afternoon, as they worked in the fields, a small group of children approached them, their faces filled with curiosity. Emma smiled, and John nodded, inviting them to join in their labor. Together, they planted seeds, watered the crops, and harvested the fruit of their labor. The children's laughter echoed through the valleys, blending with the songs of the birds, creating a symphony of joy that filled the air. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow across the landscape, Emma and John sat together on the porch, watching the stars twinkle to life. They held hands, their fingers intertwined, a symbol of their love and commitment to each other. The world around them was full of uncertainty, yet in this moment, they knew they were exactly where they were meant to be. Their love was a flame that burned bright, a beacon of hope in a world that had once sought to extinguish it. It was a love that had weathered the storms, a love that had been forged in the fires of adversity. And as they sat together, watching the stars, they knew that their love would continue to grow, to flourish, and to guide them through the challenges that lay ahead. In this moment, they were no longer the outcasts, no longer the shunned and the condemned. They were two people bound together by their love, their trust, and their commitment to one another. And as the world around them continued to spin, they knew that their love would remain constant, a reminder of the power of hope and forgiveness. The darkness of the night began to descend, casting a deep shadow across the landscape. But Emma and John's love shone bright, a light that guided them through the unknown. And as they sat together, watching the stars, they knew that their love would continue to be their guiding force, their North Star in the darkest of times. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the vast expanse of the Texas ranch, Emma's eyes locked onto John's. She took a deep breath, the weight of her secrets pressing down upon her like a physical force. For the first time since arriving at the ranch, Emma felt a sense of trust with John, a sense that he might understand her, might see beyond the surface level. "What's been holding you back, Emma?" John asked, his voice low and gentle. "You've been carrying this weight for so long. It's like you're living in a constant state of siege." Emma's eyes dropped, her gaze falling to the ground as she struggled to find the words. It was hard to articulate the fears that had haunted her for so long, the doubts that had crept into her mind like a thief in the night. But something about John's kind face, his listening ear, made her feel like she could finally open up. "It's just, I've always felt like a burden to those around me," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Like I'm this thing that needs to be fixed, but can never be fixed. And it's like I'm stuck in this never-ending cycle of shame and guilt." John's expression softened, his eyes filling with compassion. "Emma, you're not a burden," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "You're a woman who's been through hell and come out the other side. That's something to be proud of, not ashamed of." But Emma shook her head, her eyes welling up with tears. "It's not just that," she said. I used to be in a place where people didn't want me, where I was shunned and feared. And I've always wondered if that's what I deserved, if I was somehow broken." John's face darkened, his jaw clenched in anger. "You were sold to me as Barren, Emma," he said. "But I don't believe that for a second. You're a woman who's been through hell, yes, but you're also a woman who's strong, resilient, and capable of love. And I believe in you, Emma. I believe in you more than you believe in yourself." Emma's heart swelled at John's words, her eyes locking onto his like a key fitting into a lock. She felt a sense of hope rising up inside her, a sense that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't a burden after all. Maybe she was something more. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the ranch in a soft, golden light, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. It was a fragile peace, one that might be shattered at any moment, but it was a start. And as she looked at John, she knew that she was no longer alone. "I think I might have a secret," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. John's eyes locked onto hers, his expression curious. "What is it?" he asked. Emma took a deep breath, the words spilling out of her like a dam breaking. "I'm not barren, John. I'm not. I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air like a challenge, a gauntlet thrown down in the face of the unknown. And as Emma waited for John's reaction, she felt her heart pounding in her chest, her pulse racing with anticipation. The world around them seemed to hold its breath, the only sound the soft rustle of the wind through the grass. And then, in a moment that felt like an eternity, John's face cracked into a wide, relieved smile. "We have a lot to talk about, Emma," John said, his voice filled with a sense of wonder. "But for now, let's just say that I'm glad you're not barren. And I'm glad we're in this together." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the ranch in a soft, golden light, Emma felt a sense of hope rising up inside her. It was a fragile hope, one that might be shattered at any moment, but it was a start. And as she looked at John, she knew that she was no longer alone. They were in this together, a team facing the unknown with a sense of hope and determination. The ranch's secret as Emma walked through the rolling hills of the Texas ranch, the warm sun beating down on her face, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this place than met the eye. The ranch had been in John's family for generations, and yet there was an air of secrecy surrounding it, a sense of history that lingered just beneath the surface. It was only when they were sitting on the porch, watching the sun set over the vast expanse of the ranch, that John finally opened up to her. His eyes locked onto hers, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "There's something I need to tell you, Emma," he said, his voice low and serious. Something that's been hidden for a long time. Emma's curiosity was piqued, and she leaned in, her ears perked up. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. John took a deep breath, the weight of his words settling between them like a physical force. "The ranch," he began. "It's not just any ordinary ranch. It's a place of refuge, a sanctuary for those who've been wronged. My family has been taking in women who've been accused of witchcraft, betrayal, and other crimes. They've been given a second chance, a chance to start anew." Emma's eyes widened in surprise, her mind racing with the implications. She thought back to her own experiences, the shame and the pain that had been heaped upon her. She realized now that she wasn't alone, that there were others out there who had been through similar struggles. John's voice continued, his words painting a picture of a community that had come together to support each other. "We've had women from all walks of life come to the ranch. Some have been accused of witchcraft, others of betrayal. But we've never judged them. We've given them a place to call home, a place to heal and to start anew." As John spoke, Emma felt a sense of solidarity wash over her. She realized that she was part of something much bigger than herself, something that transcended her own experiences. The ranch was a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in the darkness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the ranch, Emma felt a sense of pride and belonging. She knew that she had found a new home, a place where she could be herself without fear of judgment. And she knew that she was not alone, that there were others out there who understood her struggles and her pain. The community began to come together, working toward the common goal. They started to rebuild the ranch, to make it a place of beauty and wonder. They planted trees, built a new barn, and created a garden that bloomed with vibrant flowers. It was a labor of love, a testament to the power of community and resilience. As Emma worked alongside the others, she felt a sense of purpose and meaning that she had never felt before. She realized that she was part of something much bigger than herself, something that would outlast her own struggles and pain. The ranch was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always a way forward. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, Emma found herself growing stronger, more confident. She began to see the world in a new light, to understand that she was not alone, that there were others out there who had been through similar struggles. And she knew that she would always be grateful for the ranch, for the community that had taken her in and given her a second chance. But even as she felt a sense of peace and contentment, Emma knew that there was still more to the story. She sensed that there was a deeper secret, one that lay hidden beneath the surface of the ranch. A secret that only John knew, and one that he was determined to keep. As the sun set over the ranch, casting a warm orange glow over the rolling hills, Emma felt a sense of anticipation building inside of her. She knew that she would have to wait and see what the future held, but she was ready for whatever came next. For she knew that she was part of something much bigger than herself, something that would outlast her own struggles and pain. The ranch was a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in the darkness. And Emma knew that she would always be grateful for the chance to be a part of it. As Emma stepped into the bright Texas morning, the warm sunlight danced across her face, illuminating the spark of hope that had taken up residence within her. The previous night's revelation still lingered, a gentle hum in the back of her mind. She was pregnant. The thought sent a mix of emotions swirling through her, a maelstrom of joy, fear, and uncertainty. John's face, etched with a mixture of shock and wonder, flashed in her mind like a Polaroid photo. Their conversation the night before had been a gentle dance, both of them tiptoeing around the revelation, unsure of how to process the news. Emma's heart swelled with love for the man who had taken her in, who had given her a second chance at life. As she walked through the ranch, the scent of fresh-cut grass and the soft lowing of cattle filled the air, transporting her to a place of serenity. Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her, a sense of purpose that she had not felt in a long time. She was having a baby. The thought sent a shiver down her spine as she wrapped her arms around her belly, cradling the tiny life growing inside. John's voice, low and gentle, echoed in her mind. "We'll face this together, Emma. We'll figure it out." A smile spread across her face as she thought about the countless ways they would nurture this new life. The laughter, the tears, the late-night feedings, and the first hesitant steps. The thought of it all was almost too much to bear, and yet it was the most wonderful thing she had ever felt. As the morning sun climbed higher in the sky, Emma made her way to the kitchen, where John was already brewing a pot of coffee. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, they just looked at each other, the air thick with unspoken words. Then, without a word, John opened his arms, and Emma walked into them, feeling the warmth and love radiate from his very being. Their hands, entwined together, held a newfound significance, a symbol of the promise they had made to each other, to face this journey together as a team. Emma felt a sense of gratitude wash over her, gratitude for this man, for this ranch, for the life they were building together. The news of her pregnancy spread like wildfire through the small community, and soon Emma found herself surrounded by friends and neighbors, all of whom were overjoyed for her. The women of the ranch, in particular, were a wellspring of love and support, offering words of encouragement, cooking meals, and spoiling Emma rotten. The men, too, were a tower of strength, offering help, advice, and a listening ear. As the days passed, Emma felt a sense of belonging she had never known before. She was no longer the outcast, the woman shunned by society. She was a mother-to-be, a woman loved and cherished by the people around her. The community rallied around her, creating a web of love and support that wrapped around her like a warm blanket. In the evenings, as they sat around the campfire, watching the stars twinkle to life, John would tell her stories of his childhood, of his parents, and of the ranch's rich history. Emma would listen, entranced, as the words painted a picture of a life she had never known. She felt a sense of connection to this land, to this community, and to the man who had taken her in. One night, as they sat together, watching the fire dance, John turned to her and said, "You know, Emma, I never thought I'd find someone like you. Someone who would see past the surface and love me for who I am." Emma's heart swelled with emotion as she looked at him, her eyes shining with tears. "I love you, John," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I love you too," he replied, his voice filled with emotion. As the night wore on, the stars twinkling above, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. She knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be, surrounded by people who loved her and a man who loved her with all his heart. The miracle that had unfolded in her life was not just the pregnancy, but the love, the support, and the sense of belonging that had come with it. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, and Emma found herself growing more and more content with each passing day. She was no longer the outcast, but a woman loved and cherished by the people around her. The ranch, once a place of refuge, had become a home, a place where she felt safe, loved, and accepted. As she looked out at the vast expanse of the Texas prairie, Emma knew that she had found her true home, not just a physical place, but a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose. She was exactly where she was meant to be, surrounded by people who loved her and a man who loved her with all his heart. The miracle that had unfolded in her life was not just the pregnancy, but the love, the support, and the sense of belonging that had come with it. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the ranch, Emma smiled, knowing that she had found her true home and that her life was forever changed. As the sun rose over the Texas ranch, Emma's anxiety swirled like a stormy sky. She was pregnant with twins, a miracle some might say, but for her, it was a ticking time bomb. The doctor's words still echoed in her mind. "We'll do everything we can, but the pregnancy is complicated. The twins' health is at risk." Emma's hand instinctively went to her belly, feeling the gentle flutter of her baby's hearts beating in unison. John, the rugged rancher who had taken her in, stood by her side, his eyes filled with worry. "We'll get through this, Emma. We'll do everything we can to keep them safe." But Emma couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. She had lost so much already: her reputation, her family, her sense of self-worth. Could she really afford to lose the very thing that brought her joy? As the days passed, the ranch became a whirlwind of activity. The community came together, praying for Emma's recovery and the twins' health. Neighbors brought food, watched the children, and offered words of encouragement. But Emma felt suffocated by their kindness. She couldn't bear the weight of their expectations, the pressure to be strong, to be brave. One night, as the wind howled outside, Emma sat by the fireplace, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup of tea. She felt like a fragile leaf, torn from its branch, blown by the winds of fate. She thought of her past, of the pain and the shame, of the scars that still lingered. Could she really heal now, after all that had happened? John sat beside her, his eyes locked on hers. "You're not alone, Emma. We're in this together." But Emma felt like a shipwreck, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. She didn't know if she could trust herself, if she could trust John, or if she could trust the universe to work in her favor. As the night wore on, the fire crackled and the wind died down. Emma felt a gentle hand on her shoulder, a touch that spoke volumes. It was Mary, the wise old woman who had been like a mother to her. "You're strong, Emma," Mary said, her voice a gentle breeze. "You've been through hell and back, and you're still standing. Don't let anyone, including yourself, make you feel otherwise." Emma felt a lump form in her throat as she looked at Mary, at John, at the faces of the people who had taken her in. They believed in her, they believed in the twins, and they believed in her potential to heal, to grow, to rise above the ashes. As she looked at them, Emma felt a spark ignite within her, a spark of defiance, of hope, of determination. The twins, sensing their mother's emotions, kicked and squirmed in her belly. Emma smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. Maybe, just maybe, they would be okay. Maybe they would be more than okay. They would be a testament to the power of love, of redemption, of the human spirit's capacity to heal and to thrive. As the night wore on, Emma drifted off to sleep, her heart filled with a sense of wonder, of possibility. She knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous, but she also knew that she wasn't alone. She had John, she had the community, and she had the twins, three tiny miracles that had changed her life forever. As the sun rose over the small Texas ranch, a sense of wonder and awe washed over Emma and John. The previous night's journey had been a whirlwind of emotions, but none compared to the miracle that now unfolded before them. In their arms, two tiny bundles of joy lay swaddled, their tiny fists curled around the fingers of their loving parents. The twins, a boy and a girl, were a perfect blend of their mother and father, with eyes that sparkled like the morning dew and skin that glowed with a warm, golden light. Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment wash over her as she gazed at her precious children. She thought back to the countless nights of doubt and fear, the moments when she wondered if she'd ever hold her babies in her arms. But now, as she cradled them close, all those worries seemed to fade away, replaced by a sense of peace and contentment. John's eyes shone with tears as he gazed at his new family, his heart overflowing with love and gratitude. The two of them sat in silence, taking in the miracle that had brought them to this moment. As the morning sun climbed higher in the sky, the sounds of the ranch came alive, the chirping of birds, the lowing of cattle, and the distant rumble of a tractor. But Emma and John were lost in their own little world, one where the only sounds were the gentle coos of their babies and the beating of their own hearts. The community had been waiting with bated breath for the arrival of the twins, and now that they were finally here, the news spread like wildfire. Neighbors and friends flocked to the ranch, bearing gifts and congratulations for the new family. Emma's heart swelled with love and gratitude as she welcomed them into their home, eager to share in the joy and celebration. As the day wore on, the ranch became a hub of activity, with people gathering to catch a glimpse of the precious twins. Emma and John were bombarded with questions and well wishes, but they didn't mind. They were too busy basking in the love and adoration that surrounded them. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden light over the ranch, Emma and John sat on the porch, their babies snuggled up close. They watched as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, feeling a sense of peace and contentment wash over them. They knew that their journey was just beginning, but for now, in this moment, they were exactly where they were meant to be. The twins, now a few hours old, were already bringing a sense of joy and wonder to the ranch. Emma's heart swelled with love as she gazed at them, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment wash over her. She thought back to the countless nights of doubt and fear, the moments when she wondered if she'd ever hold her babies in her arms. But now, as she cradled them close, all those worries seemed to fade away, replaced by a sense of peace and contentment. John's eyes shone with tears as he gazed at his new family, his heart overflowing with love and gratitude. The two of them sat in silence, taking in the miracle that had brought them to this moment. As the night wore on, the ranch grew quiet, the only sounds the gentle coos of the twins and the distant hooting of an owl. Emma and John sat on the porch, their babies snuggled up close, feeling a sense of peace and contentment wash over them. They knew that their journey was just beginning, but for now, in this moment, they were exactly where they were meant to be. As the stars twinkled in the night sky, Emma leaned over and kissed John's cheek, her heart full of love and gratitude. "We did it," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of the wind. John smiled, his eyes shining with tears, and wrapped his arms around her and the twins. "We sure did," he whispered back, his voice full of emotion. In this moment, surrounded by the beauty of the Texas night sky, Emma and John knew that they were exactly where they were meant to be, surrounded by love, joy, and the precious gift of their twins. As Emma held the twins in her arms, a mix of emotions swirled within her. The rope brand on her skin, once a physical symbol of shame, now seemed to hold a different meaning. It was a reminder of the strength she had discovered within herself, a testament to the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through the darkest of times. Her eyes wandered to the rope, now a faded scar, a constant reminder of the hardships she had faced. The branding, once a cruel reminder of her past, had become a badge of honor, a symbol of the unyielding courage she had shown in the face of adversity. Emma's hands gently touched the rope, and a faint smile crept onto her lips as she remembered the words of the wise old woman who had first spoken them. A scar is not a sign of weakness, but a reminder of our strength. As she looked around the small Texas ranch, Emma felt a sense of gratitude wash over her. The community had come together to support her, acknowledging her past and present. They had seen the strength she had shown, and they were willing to stand by her side. The ranch hands, once strangers, were now friends, their faces etched with kindness and compassion. John, Emma's husband, stood by her side, his eyes filled with a deep love and respect. He had seen the transformation within her, the growth from a broken and battered woman to a strong and resilient one. His hand gently brushed against hers, a silent gesture of support and admiration. The twins, now a few weeks old, lay sleeping in their mother's arms, their tiny hands curled into fists as they clung to her warmth. Emma's heart swelled with love and pride, her eyes welling up with tears as she gazed at her children. They were a physical reminder of her strength, a symbol of the love and resilience that had carried her through the darkest of times. As the sun rose over the ranch, casting a warm glow over the landscape, Emma felt a sense of peace settle within her. She knew that she had come a long way, that she had faced her fears and emerged stronger on the other side. The rope brand, once a symbol of shame, was now a reminder of her strength, a symbol of the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through the darkness. The community, too, had come together to celebrate this new chapter in Emma's life. They had brought food, gifts, and well wishes, their voices filled with joy and celebration. The air was filled with the sweet scent of freshly baked bread, the sound of laughter and chatter, and the warm glow of candles lit to mark this special moment. As Emma looked around at the faces gathered before her, she felt a sense of gratitude wash over her. They had seen her at her lowest, and yet they had chosen to stand by her side. They had seen the strength she had shown, and they were willing to celebrate it with her. The twins, now a few weeks old, lay sleeping in their mother's arms, their tiny hands curled into fists as they clung to her. In this moment, Emma knew that she had found a new family, a community that would stand by her side through thick and thin. She knew that she had found a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, and a sense of love that she had never known before. The rope brand, once a symbol of shame, was now a reminder of her strength, a symbol of the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through the darkness. As the celebration continued, Emma's eyes wandered to the twins, now a few weeks old, their tiny hands curled into fists as they clung to her warmth. She felt a sense of pride and love swell within her, her heart overflowing with joy and gratitude. In this moment, Emma knew that she had found a new lease on life, a new chance to live and love and laugh with the people she had come to care for. The rope brand, once a symbol of shame, was now a reminder of her strength, a symbol of the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through the darkness. Emma's eyes closed, her heart filled with a sense of peace and contentment. She knew that she had come a long way, that she had faced her fears and emerged stronger on the other side. As the celebration continued, Emma's thoughts turned to the future, to the possibilities and challenges that lay ahead. She knew that she would face setbacks and struggles, that she would have to fight to keep her family safe and happy. But she also knew that she was no longer alone, that she had a community that would stand by her side. The rope brand, once a symbol of shame, was now a reminder of her strength, a symbol of the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through the darkness. Emma's eyes opened, her gaze falling on the twins, now a few weeks old, their tiny hands curled into fists as they clung to her warmth. She smiled, her heart filled with love and gratitude, knowing that she had found a new lease on life, a new chance to live and love and laugh with the people she had come to care for. In the dimly lit saloon, Emma's small act of defiance echoed through the years like a whispered secret. It was a moment so fleeting, so insignificant to some, but to Emma, it marked a turning point in her life. She stood tall, her eyes locked on the rope brand on her skin, a physical symbol of shame that had been passed down through generations. But as she faced the townsfolk, something within her cracked. That small act of defiance, a child's voice rising above the din, sent ripples through the community. It was as if the very fabric of their society was beginning to fray, and the threads of oppression were being pulled apart. Emma's courage inspired others to speak out, to stand up against the injustices they had suffered in silence. The once submissive women of the town, their faces etched with the weight of shame, began to find their voices. At first, it was just whispers, hushed conversations in dark alleys and hidden corners. But as the days turned into weeks, the whispers grew louder, until they became a chorus of defiance. The townsfolk, emboldened by Emma's courage, began to question the status quo. They asked why they had been treated as second-class citizens, why their voices had been silenced for so long. And as they asked, they found their own strength, their own voice. The community, once a sea of conformity, began to fracture and break apart. The lines of division, once so clear-cut, began to blur. And in the midst of this chaos, Emma emerged as a leader, a force for change. Her small act of defiance had ignited a fire that would burn bright for years to come, a flame that would guide the townsfolk through the darkness and into a brighter future. As the townsfolk gathered in the town square, their faces set with determination, Emma stood before them, her eyes ablaze with a fierce inner light. She spoke of the injustices they had suffered, of the shame that had been heaped upon them. And as she spoke, the crowd began to see her in a new light. They saw not a woman who had been wrongly condemned, but a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope. The rope brand on her skin, once a symbol of shame, now seemed to hold a different meaning. It was a reminder of the strength she had discovered within herself, a testament to the power of courage in the face of adversity. And as the townsfolk looked at Emma, they saw their own strength reflected back at them. They saw the power of defiance, the power of resistance. In that moment, the community was forever changed. The small act of defiance that had started it all had become a movement, a revolution that would sweep through the town and beyond. And Emma, the woman who had been wrongly condemned, stood at its forefront, her voice ringing out like a clarion call to freedom. The crowd, their faces set with determination, began to chant her name. "Emma! Emma!" they cried, their voices echoing through the night. And as they chanted, Emma's eyes blazed with a fierce inner light. She was no longer the silenced woman, no longer the wrongly condemned. She was a force of nature, a storm that would not be contained. As the chant grew louder, the rope brand on her skin seemed to glow with an inner light. It was a symbol of her strength, a reminder of the power that lay within her. And as the crowd continued to chant her name, Emma knew that she had finally found her place in the world. She was no longer a victim, no longer a scapegoat. She was a leader, a force for change. And nothing would ever be the same again. As Emma held the twins in her arms, a mix of emotions swirled within her like a whirlwind on the open range. The rope brand on her skin, once a physical symbol of shame, now seemed to hold a different meaning. It was a reminder of the strength she had discovered within herself, a testament to the unbreakable spirit that lay beneath the surface of her rugged, weathered skin. She thought back to the moment she first laid eyes on the twins, their tiny hands grasping for hers like tiny anchors in a stormy sea. It was as if the universe had taken a deep breath, paused for a moment, and then whispered a single, powerful word: hope. And in that instant, Emma's entire world shifted. The doubts, the fears, the shame, it all began to unravel like a worn thread on a frayed rope. As she looked down at the twins, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her like a cool breeze on a summer's day. She thought about all the moments she had struggled, all the times she had felt like giving up. But in that quiet, intimate space, surrounded by the soft coos of her babies and the warmth of the sun on her skin, Emma knew she had finally found her true north. And yet, even as she basked in the glow of this newfound happiness, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was still so much to learn. The world was a vast, unforgiving place, full of uncertainties and unknowns. But as she looked at her babies, she knew that she had a newfound sense of purpose, a reason to keep pushing forward even when the road ahead seemed uncertain. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, Emma found herself at the center of a community that had once shunned her. They came from all walks of life, each with their own story to tell, their own struggles to overcome. But as they gathered around Emma, watching her care for the twins with a tenderness and devotion that was nothing short of miraculous, they began to see her in a new light. She was no longer the outcast, the woman who had been wrongly condemned. She was a mother, a guardian, a force of nature to be reckoned with. And as they looked at her, they saw their own stories reflected back at them, stories of struggle, of perseverance, of the quiet, unyielding strength that lay at the heart of every woman. As the community came together to celebrate Emma's growth and resilience, the air was filled with the sound of laughter and music, the scent of food and smoke. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, a moment that would stay with Emma and her babies for the rest of their lives. And yet, even in the midst of this celebration, Emma knew that there was still so much to come. The road ahead would be long and winding, full of twists and turns that would test her resolve and her spirit. But as she looked at her babies, she knew that she was ready. She had faced her demons and come out on top. And as she smiled, her heart full of love and her spirit full of hope, Emma knew that she would face whatever came next with the same quiet, unyielding strength that had carried her through the darkest of times. As Emma held the twins in her arms, the rope brand on her skin seemed to hold a different meaning now. It was a reminder of the strength she had found within herself, a testament to the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through the darkest of times. The small scar above her left eyebrow, a souvenir from a particularly vicious beating, now seemed like a badge of honor, a visible proof of her ability to withstand the cruelties of the world. The twins, with their perfect little noses and matching smiles, brought a sense of joy and wonder to Emma's life. They were a reminder that even in the darkest of days, there was always hope, always a chance for redemption and renewal. As she gazed into their eyes, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her, a sense of belonging that she had never experienced before. The community, too, was coming together to support Emma and her new family. Neighbors who had once shunned her were now bringing over casseroles and blankets, offering words of encouragement and support. The local priest, a kind-hearted man with a warm smile, had even offered to perform a special blessing for the twins, to welcome them into the world and to bless their family. As Emma looked around at the sea of faces, she felt a sense of gratitude and wonder. She had never imagined that she would find such acceptance and love in this small town, but here it was, unfolding before her like a blooming flower. The rope brand on her skin, once a symbol of shame and rejection, now seemed like a reminder of the power of forgiveness and redemption. Emma's garden, too, was a testament to her strength and resilience. The once barren land had been transformed into a lush oasis, a haven of beauty and life. The flowers bloomed in every color of the rainbow, their sweet scent filling the air and attracting a buzzing hive of bees. The trees, once bare and skeletal, now stood tall and proud, their leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. As Emma tended to her garden, she felt a sense of connection to the land, to the earth itself. She felt a sense of responsibility, a sense of purpose that she had never felt before. The twins, with their curious eyes and playful smiles, were a reminder that life was precious, that every moment was a gift. The community, too, was coming together to help Emma and her family. Neighbors were pitching in to help with the chores, to give her a break and allow her to focus on the twins. The local store owner, a kind-hearted woman with a warm smile, had even offered to give Emma a job to help her get back on her feet. As Emma looked around at the sea of faces, she felt a sense of gratitude and wonder. She had never imagined that she would find such acceptance and love in this small town, but here it was, unfolding before her like a blooming flower. The rope brand on her skin, once a symbol of shame and rejection, now seemed like a reminder of the power of forgiveness and redemption. The twins, with their perfect little noses and matching smiles, brought a sense of joy and wonder to Emma's life. They were a reminder that even in the darkest of days, there was always hope, always a chance for redemption and renewal. As she gazed into their eyes, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her, a sense of belonging that she had never experienced before. And as she looked out at the community, gathered around her like a warm hug, Emma knew that she was no longer alone. She was no longer a woman accused, a woman shunned and rejected. She was a mother, a wife, a member of a community that accepted her for who she was, scars and all. The rope brand on her skin, once a symbol of shame, now seemed like a reminder of the strength and resilience that had carried her through the darkest of times. As Emma sat in the warm glow of the rancher's kitchen, the twins cradled in her arms, she felt a sense of peace wash over her like a gentle stream on a summer's day. The rope brand on her skin, once a painful reminder of her shame, now seemed to hold a different meaning. It was a symbol of her strength, a testament to the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through the darkest of times. The rancher, a man with a heart as kind as the land he worked, had taken Emma in without question or judgment. He had seen the good in her, the spark of hope that burned deep within her soul. And as he looked at her now, with the twins sleeping peacefully in her arms, he knew that he had made the right decision. But as Emma gazed out the window, her mind began to wander back to the days of her past, the memories of pain and suffering that still lingered like a shadow on the horizon. She thought of the people who had wronged her, who had condemned her without a fair trial or a shred of evidence. She thought of the rope that had been burned into her skin, the physical symbol of her shame that had followed her for so long. And yet, as she looked down at the twins, she felt a sense of redemption wash over her. She realized that she had been given a second chance, a chance to start anew and to leave the past behind. She thought of the small crack of defiance that had changed the silent crowd, the child's voice that had spoken up for her when no one else would. She thought of the elder who had stood by her side, who had refused to give up on her even when she had given up on herself. As the sun began to set on the ranch, casting a golden glow over the landscape, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. She knew that she still had a long way to go, that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges and uncertainties. But she also knew that she was not alone, that she had the support of the rancher and the community, who had come together to stand by her side. And as she looked at the twins, she felt a sense of hope rise up within her. She knew that they would face their own challenges in life, that they would have to navigate the complexities of the world with all its beauty and its ugliness. But she also knew that they would have the strength of their mother, the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through the darkest of times. As the night drew in and the stars began to twinkle in the sky, Emma felt a sense of gratitude wash over her. She knew that she had been given a second chance, a chance to start anew and to leave the past behind. And as she looked at the twins, she knew that she would do everything in her power to give them the life they deserved, a life free from shame and pain, a life filled with hope and possibility. The twins stirred in her arms, their eyes opening wide as they took in the beauty of the world around them. And as Emma looked at them, she felt a sense of wonder rise up within her. She knew that they would bring joy and laughter into the world, that they would spread their wings and fly, just as she had done. As the night wore on and the darkness deepened, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. She knew that she had found her place in the world, that she had been given a second chance to start anew. And as she looked at the twins, she knew that she would always be grateful for that chance, for the opportunity to leave the past behind and to start fresh. And so, as the night drew to a close and the stars shone brightly in the sky, Emma felt a sense of hope rise up within her. She knew that she would always carry the lessons of her past with her, but she also knew that she would never be defined by them. She would rise above them, just as the sun rises above the horizon, bringing light and hope to a world that often seems dark and uncertain. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the small town, Emma's story began to unfold like a campfire legend. The locals, huddled around the flickering flames, leaned in with rapt attention as she shared her tale of resilience and courage. The rope brand on her skin, once a painful reminder of her shame, now seemed to symbolize her unbreakable spirit. People from all walks of life gathered around, drawn by the fire's warmth and Emma's unwavering determination. They had heard whispers of her past, of the accusations and the pain, but they had never seen the strength that lay beneath. As Emma spoke, her voice carried on the wind, inspiring a sense of hope and renewal in those who listened. The impact of Emma's story was palpable. It was as if the very fabric of the community was being rewritten thread by thread. Women who had been silenced, men who had been ashamed, and children who had been taught to hide their true selves began to see themselves in Emma's eyes. They saw a reflection of their own struggles, their own fears, and their own desires. As the night wore on, the community came together to celebrate Emma's growth and the lessons she had learned. They shared their own stories, their own struggles, and their own triumphs. The campfire crackled and spat, casting shadows on the faces of those gathered around. But it was not the darkness that defined them. It was the light that shone within, a light that had been fanned into a flame by Emma's unwavering spirit. And as the stars began to twinkle above, Emma's story came full circle. She had been wronged, she had been broken, but she had never been defeated. The rope brand on her skin, once a symbol of shame, had become a badge of honor, a reminder of the strength that lay within. As she looked out at the faces of those gathered around, she knew that she was no longer alone. She was part of a community that had come together, a community that had been forged in the fire of adversity and had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever before. Emma's journey was a testament to the power of the human spirit. It was a reminder that no matter what life throws our way, we have the strength to overcome, to rise above, and to emerge stronger on the other side. And as the campfire died down, leaving behind only embers and memories, Emma's story continued to burn bright, a beacon of hope in the darkness, a reminder that we are never alone, and that together we can overcome anything. As you reflect on Emma's story, I invite you to consider your own journey. What challenges have you faced? What strengths have you discovered within yourself? And what lessons have you learned along the way? Share your own story, your own struggles, and your own triumphs with me in the comments below. Let's create a community that celebrates our differences, that lifts each other up, and that reminds us that we are never alone.